For several weeks now, the Lord has been leading me to the book of Job. So today we're diving into the question, how should you respond when someone you care about is suffering? If you haven't read Job, it is the first of the wisdom books, just before the book of Psalms. And it's a book that addresses extreme human suffering and how the worst that can happen to us is God's territory, not man's. Job's name is synonymous with suffering, and what I'm sharing today is taken from my understanding of an introduction to the book of Job found in the Message Bible. This Bible is an accurate Bible. It is simply put into a more readable and easy to understand format, kind of similar to the way that we speak today. Now, I've made my share of mistakes when it comes to comforting people who are hurting. I have been a fixer. A fixer is someone who steps in trying to fix the problem, obviously. I once made a breakfast for two people who were not getting along. These two people that I cared about. And I remember walking away after they sat down at the breakfast, and it was complete silence. And I just thought, oh boy, I don't know if this is going to go over very well, but actually it did not. It didn't fix anything. They actually ended up getting divorced. And the only thing I accomplished was I wasted my time and I made them feel awkward and uncomfortable. That's how that went. I've also given unwanted advice to a friend who was having marital problems. You know, in my mind, I was trying to help, but looking back, I wish that I had just kept my mouth shut because, you know, people need time to work through their pain and their emotions, and we can't rush that. We can only pray for them. They don't need lectures about forgiveness, which is basically what I gave her. And they don't need us to set up meetings where we appoint ourselves the mediator. I've never done that, but I know people who have. They don't need us putting guilt trips on them about how long it's taking them to get over it. So I'm going to give you a quote from the introduction of the book of Job from the Message Bible. It says, "The moment we find ourselves in trouble of any kind, sick in the hospital, bereaved by a friend's death, dismissed from a job or relationship, depressed or bewildered, people start showing up telling us exactly what is wrong with us and what we must do to get better. Sufferers attract fixers the way roadkill attracts vultures." So, you know, we might think that we're helping when we come at someone with a diagnosis and a prescription for their healing, but I assure you that they will feel worse after you've said your piece. And that's exactly what happens in the book of Job. Job's wife and his friends offer no comforting words. In fact, the more they say, the worse Job feels. So let's start with just a quick look at who Job was and the suffering that he endured. Job suffered in many of the same ways that we suffer in the vital areas of health and wealth and family and material possessions. He was a good man. He was honest, he kept his word, and he was very devoted to God. He was also very wealthy, a very influential man of his time, and he had a large family. So the Bible tells us that one day Satan and God had a conversation about Job, and Satan says to God, "Well, you know, you pamper him like a pet and you bless everything he does and nothing bad ever happens to him or his family. No wonder he worships you. If you took away everything he has, he would curse you to your face." So God accepted the challenge and he told Satan, "Do what you want with all that is his. Just don't hurt him." So Satan proceeds to do what he does best. He goes on a destructive rampage. His field hands were killed. His animals were stolen. His sheep and his shepherds were killed by bolts of lightning, fried to a crisp. His camel drivers were murdered, the camels were raided, and then a tornado struck one of his son's homes while all of his children were inside, killing all of them. Talk about a bad day. So when Job's messenger told him about this, he fell on the ground and he worshiped God. So Satan still was not satisfied. He came to God and said, well, Job still has his health, and that's why he won't curse you to your face. And once again, God says, go ahead, take away his health, but do not kill him. So Satan inflicts Job with ulcers and scabs and terrible sores from head to toe. And these sores, they were oozing pus and very itchy. So he sat in an ash pile scraping his skin with a piece of pottery. He was just completely miserable. And in his misery, the people who love and care about him step in and offer advice. First, his wife has this valuable insight. Oh my gosh. She says, still holding on to your precious integrity, are you? Curse God and be done with it. I lost my place again. Okay. Then 3 of Job's friends heard of his trouble, and they came to keep him company and comfort him. Comfort him? I should put that in quotes because, well, you'll hear. So they sat with him on the ground for 7 days without saying a word. I mean, this man was barely recognizable. They were completely shocked when they saw him. Maybe they were in shock for 7 days, and that's why they didn't talk. But they obviously saw how deeply he was suffering. And they should have remained silent because when they began speaking, their words weren't of any comfort. They only made him feel worse. And here are some of the things that his friends said to him. One friend claimed that his children must have sinned. Otherwise, why would God have punished them by allowing them to die in a tornado? All 3 of his friends say things to suggest that Job must have done something to deserve his suffering. They said things like, well, God doesn't reject good people. And those who live by their own rules, not God's, they can expect nothing but trouble. And one of his friends topped it all by saying, God is disciplining you because you're a first-class moral failure and there's no end to your sins. Some kind of friends, huh? So Job finally defends himself. And I'm going to read what he has to say to his friends. When he reaches his breaking point, he says, I've had all I can take of your talk. What a bunch of miserable comforters. Is there no end to your windbag speeches? What's your problem that you go on and on like this? If you were in my shoes, I could talk just like you. If you were in my shoes, I could talk just like you. I could put together a terrific harangue and really let you have it. But I'd never do that. I would console and comfort and make things better, not worse. So, we really need to be careful of making things worse when we console people who are hurting. We need to keep in mind several things. Number 1 is we can't really understand the full nature of anyone's problems or why they are so deeply hurt. You haven't endured the things that they've been through. There could be something from their past, some kind of past trauma that resurfaced as a result of that pain that you are not considering. And that's why it hit them so hard. We can't be the author of someone else's life. telling a hurting person what you think they're doing wrong, telling them what you think they must do to heal, putting a timetable on their healing by saying, you should be over this by now. You know, I get over things much quicker than this. It's time to move on. These comments don't bring any kind of comfort. You know, Job's friends also said that he must have done something to displease God or he wouldn't be suffering. The Bible tells us to always season our words with grace. So when you're dealing with someone who's been abused, emotionally, mentally, physically, or verbally, we need to be very careful. One thing we should not do is speak prematurely. If you're going to go talk to the person, it would be a good idea to ask God to reveal all that he can about the situation, because sometimes we just don't have all the facts. So speaking prematurely, you will probably end up putting your foot in your mouth and deeply regretting what you say. I've done that myself. It's not a good feeling. So pray for God to reveal all the facts of the situation. You know, we can't try to fix something that is a job for Jesus. We're not qualified to get rid of people's problems or to make them better. What we can do is to join them in protest and prayer, share in their suffering, listen more than talk. Definitely do not pity them or feel sorry for them. You know, those who are committed to God often suffer more than those who are not so committed. But God will bring purpose from their pain, and they will end up coming out stronger. So the book of Job ends with God reprimanding Job's friends for their lousy attempt at comforting him and their inaccurate assessment of how God operates. Job's friends believed that Job's suffering was a punishment from God, but that was not true. God ended up restoring everything he had. That's how the story ends. There's a happy ending. He ended up wealthier than ever. All his animals were restored, and he ended up with more than ever. Even his family. He had more children, and he had a happy family once again. So, as well as a lesson on how we should respond to people we care about who are suffering, it's also a story of hope. So I hope that this has helped you to, really think about how you should respond to someone who's hurting, because, everyone's going to have to deal with this, because we're all hurting, suffering. This is a time right now when a lot of people are going through some really difficult times. So you are going to be faced with, how should I comfort this person? What should I say? So, it's very easy to make this mistake in our relationships. I've done it myself. Don't beat yourself up if you've done this. It's very easy to do, to just say the wrong thing. But like every problem that we could possibly have, God shows how to handle it in the Bible. He showed us what not to do. So don't be like Job's friends, and don't make that hurting person feel worse. Be very careful with your words. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a great coming week, and I don't know what my next topic is about. I'm thinking it's going to be dive into this book, People of the Lie, and that will go under my new playlist, Skim a Bestseller. It's a very interesting chapter in there that I'd really like to share with all of you. So please like, subscribe, and share, and comment if you got anything out of this video. I appreciate all my subscribers, and I will see you next week. Have a great week.